Hello and welcome to the EPRI Current. I'm your host, Samantha Gilman, and today we're going to have a conversation around our generation fleet and reliability. Our generation fleet is continuing to evolve as we include these new assets. So how do we balance the legacy assets, such as gas power plants, while incorporating new resources, such as wind and solar, but maintain reliability for consumers? So I'm joined by two experts. First, Jake Corville, Director of Engineering and Technical Services of the Generation Fleet at Entergy, and Mike Caravaggio, Vice President of Generation and Reliability here at EPRI. Thanks to both of you for joining. And before we get started, I want to give our listeners an opportunity to get to know you two first. So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in EPRI and how you got here?
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. So, as provided at the beginning, Mike Caravaggio. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I actually started up in Canada working in coal-fired generation. Since then, all those coal-fired units actually have been retired out. So I've been living through generation evolution for quite some time. And so that was part of the emphasis for me to actually come down to EPRI the first time. So I've been to EPRI twice now. So I came down to EPRI in 2009. I was basically working on corrosion in big power plants, so in coal plants and in gas plants back then. Then I worked for EPRI for about 2 years then. Then I took 3 years in Singapore doing consultancy there, working still in the power industry. And then in 2014, I came back to EPRI, was again deep in the technical work, and then through a series of choices, ended up getting into management and getting into more of the overall direction of our work. But been working on the evolution of generation for 25 years, and EPRI is a great place to be working on that with great people like my friend Jake Corville from Entergy.
Excellent. Well, Jake, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got here.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha and Mike. It's great to be with both of y'all. And so my name is Jake Corville. I've been at Entergy now 25 years, just like Mike. My whole career has been within our generation fleet, the non-nuclear fleet, that started out at gas and oil plant and have been in coal, and done a little bit of work with our hydros, but I've spent my entire time making sure that our plants were well maintained, that our people have been trained to execute on a safe and reliable generation asset for the benefit of our customers. I've bounced around a bit all along the Interstate 10 Gulf Coast region in the Entergy footprint. We cover Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and Arkansas, as well as the city of New Orleans. And I've spent most of my career along the southern end of that. My current role is supporting our 45 active generation units and across those 4 states. And I've also got the ability right now to help us think about how we transition our generation fleet into what's coming next. Having started at Entergy when I was 19 years old, I've kind of grown up in the power industry. And I'm convinced more than ever, Samantha and Mike, that the back half of my tenure in this industry is going to look very different than it did at the very beginning when I was fresh out of school there at Louisiana State University. So I'm glad to be with y'all and looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. That's something we've heard from many guests, that the rate of change in the industry right now is much more than it was, say, 20, 30, 40, or 50 years ago when EPRI was founded. So let's set the stage for our listeners on what's currently happening with the generation fleet, and to start more specifically, how EPRI is involved. So, Mike, how is EPRI supporting the integration of these new technologies, these new generation resources into the generation fleet?
We've got like a broad scale of work going on, right? And it depends on the technology and where it's at. So for things like wind and solar, we are largely doing work on scaling out those so that they can have long life, be reliable throughout that life, and really get a wonderful return on investment on that. So it's wind and solar, traditional wind and solar, they're scaled out and they're going. Some of the maybe edge case wind and solar. So if you think about offshore wind, or if you think about maybe floating solar panels on top of a hydro reservoir, those we're working with members to sort of demonstrate. But wind and solar can't get us to our ultimate goal, right, of reliable, decarbonized energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. So we're continuing to work with our legacy coal and gas fleets to understand how they match better with those variable resources, how you need to change your strategies and the technologies in place at those plants to balance that out. And then we're also working on basically looking at new technologies that can fill some of that gap that traditionally coal has filled and currently gas is filling. So long duration energy storage technologies, and there's a whole cornucopia of approaches there. And we're really trying to find and work with members to demonstrate them, show which ones may have the path to being able to scale up, and then trying to down select and then trying to help make that scale up occur. So it's a lot. There's a lot of dynamics going on in this evolution, and it's a really fun time to be trying to map it out and trying to figure it out.
In fact, we had your boss, Senior Vice President Neva Espinoza for Energy Supply here at EPRI on last year, and she was talking about it's all about optionality, using all the tools in the toolbox, whatever other analogy you want to use, but there are so many different resources, and from what you're saying, it's how do you balance that for reliability. But now I'd like to hear from the utility side. Jake, from your perspective, how is Entergy implementing these new technologies and trying to maintain that reliability?
Yeah, that's a great question, Samantha. But Entergy is fully committed to our vision of We Power Life. We're committed to that for today and for future generations. And I guess contrasting when I started in the industry, we're seeing unprecedented growth across all of our territories. And those customers are demanding from us not only reliability and not only an excellent value in the costs and affordability of their power, but they also want cleaner and cleaner energy as they build out their goals. And so we're committed to providing that kind of sustainable value for our customers. For our employees, we want them to continue to be able to enjoy a career in the power industry. For our communities, obviously, not only our customers, but the people in our communities at large. We want to be good members of the neighborhoods we serve in. And also for our owners. We are an investor-owned utility, and we want to provide a return that's commensurate with the investments that are made. And so we can do that when we can deliver that safe and reliable power and increasingly clean energy for all of those stakeholders as we focus on safe work inside our assets, people engagement, and operating with excellence. And EPRI's research helps us with really all three of those. In our existing fleet, they help us make sure that our employees are equipped and ready and supported by robust procedures and policies and training to do what is needed in a safe way each and every day. They help us with making sure our equipment is maintained in a really top-notch way for the stuff that was built 50 years ago and for the stuff that's in construction now. And it's helping us in new ways as we think about the change that's coming for our people as we land some of our units that are gliding towards a deactivation date while ramping up newer units and different technologies that they may have new skills and new technological implementation items in the field, but we'll still be there to be safe and reliable for all of our stakeholders going forward.
So Jake, what you just mentioned about reliability, it is so top of mind for so many in the industry right now, particularly for right now, an extreme weather event. There's currently a heat dome where I live in North Carolina, and for much of the space north of me and west of me and east of me. So how during these extreme weather events, how does the electric industry keep reliability and deliver power to consumers? And I want to hear from you, Jake, how Can you share how the work that's being done is helping Entergy prepare for those extreme weather events and help maintain the dependable operations during those peak loads?
It's funny, when I grew up in rural South Louisiana, the lights going out were not that big of a deal. But, increasingly that becomes a health issue for some of our customers. It can become an interruption to businesses and the community. And I know here at my house, if the Wi-Fi blips for just a minute, the teenagers that live in my house are going to let me know about that. So increasingly, as we've made electric power more reliable, our customers have come to depend on it. And we're facing things like this heat dome, where the design basis of our existing fleet is being challenged by conditions that were not anticipated when they were constructed. I hate that y'all are in that heat dome in North Carolina right now, but high heat and humidity is something that we deal with in our service territory quite frequently. And EPRI helps us with that to make sure that all of the industry best practices are laid in before summer peak. But where we need assistance has been in the winter readiness. We've had, in the last 5 years, we've had 3 significant winter events that have impacted our territory in different conditions. We had 12 inches of snow in South Louisiana this past winter, and that's outside the design basis for our fleet. And so when we have known issues, we can go to EPRI and leverage best practices. And when we have unusual issues like the increasingly unpredictable weather that we're all facing, we can again use the power of the collaborative there. Not only the research that's been done, but the people connections to talk to subject matter experts in the field. I know Mike's team has connected us before with some of our peer utilities, and it's really been powerful for us to be part of that.
Yep. And before Mike chimes in on that, I want to point out that that 12 inches of snow in New Orleans happened to be the week that I went to New Orleans. So not at all prepared for that. Did not bring the right shoes. But Mike,
we didn't have the right shoes anyway, so you were probably no worse off than any of us.
Mike, can you share the recent work that EPRI's been doing on this topic that Jake was just talking about with extreme weather and reliability and resilience during these peak times?
So we actually just recently completed a pretty broad initiative across EPRI looking at resiliency and climate variables. We called it Climate Ready. Looking at resilience of not just generation assets, but transmission, the entire energy supply system. So this was kind of part of the magic of EPRI, in that we have all these diverse experts, we have all these members with diverse expertise, and we brought them together for the last 3 years to try to understand, okay, what does a heat dome mean for a hydro plant? What does it mean for a gas asset? What does a freezing storm mean for a nuclear asset? How do I make this resilient? How do I have this entire system that isn't just generation assets, but also includes distribution and includes transmission, resilient for these events so that we can achieve on that reliability that people have come to just expect from our industry? I think Jake hit on it right on, in that we're a victim of our own success. We've been so reliable that a lot of people depend on us, not just for convenience, but also for home medical devices and things like that, where it's no small matter when the lights go out, especially as we also look to the future and we're electrifying our vehicles, we're electrifying our home heating. So being resilient and basically leveraging off expertise across different domains of expertise is critical. We've accomplished a lot of that in our Climate Ready work, and then push that back into our base R&D programs to make sure that whether you have a fleet made up of gas and solar, or you have a fleet made up of coal and wind, it can be resilient and achieve on what your mission is for your ratepayers and people who rely on your electricity supply there. So a little bit of the magic EPRI occurred, and but it's part of the fun of this, right? Is that to do these sort of things right, to achieve like resilience in a heat dome or a winter storm, that's a lot of expertise. The details really matter. A lot of engineering expertise, operational expertise, maintenance best practices, they need to occur throughout these assets. That's not tens of people. That's not hundreds of people. That's thousands of people learning from each other and implementing it in successful ways so that when I go to hit my lights, they come on. And basically we have that reliable, resilient electricity supply. So it's a lot of detail for something that I think everybody just takes kind of for granted.
Yeah, a lot of detail, and it's incredibly complex as well. Mike's too humble to say this, but his team does a lot of work in informing policymakers about what the practical realities are of what we're doing. The bulk electric system as we have it right now in North America today is the most complex electromechanical system ever built by man. And it takes thousands of people, like Mike said, to maintain it every second of every day. And it's not easily understood by the general public. And our general public typically doesn't elect people that are strong subject matter experts to write these policies. So there's a lot of work that from an impartial but risk-informed basis, Mike and EPRI team can bring to those rule makers so that we don't put in rules that would have unintended consequences and that would ultimately lead to loss of power or have electricity cost too much for folks to afford.
That's right. We do provide our research to many policymakers and regulatory bodies so that they have science-backed research to make decisions.
That's right.
Switching directions a little bit from that, Jake, Entergy, along with many utilities across the globe right now, are managing this task of maintaining those legacy assets while building the new assets for the future. Tell us how you're approaching the equipment reliability to ensure that the fleet continues to deliver capacity during this transition. And I'll note, and maybe something that you could bring into your answer is our last episode was just about the supply chain for gas turbines. Maintaining these legacy fleets does not sound like it's particularly easy at the moment with the delays and whatnot. So I'm interested that was a lot I just threw at you, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how you're approaching that reliability and the dependable capacity.
Yeah, it's okay for the questions to be complicated. The topic is complicated.
And I'm sure the answer is going to be complicated.
Oh, the answer will be simple. Don't worry, Samantha. And Jake's about to deliver it.
Yeah, hard work. That's the simple answer. The truth of the matter is it is that we've got this unique point going on. I think it's an inflection point in our industry where assets that have reached the end of their design life were already coming due to be replaced. And those needed to be replaced with more modern equipment that emits less, that burns less fuel per kilowatt hour, and that is more reliable than what we've had. And we've had a lot of success bringing that in sort of the 1 and 2 at a time kind of effort. But when you pair that against the growth that we're seeing, we see growth that folks would have told you was a lie and impossible 25 years ago when Mike and I started with this industry. When you hear about 4 and 5 and 6 and 8% growth year over year.
Thanks, data centers.
Yeah, well, data centers, but also America presents a unique opportunity to the world for manufacturing. We have data center growth, but we have industrial growth, and both of those will drive community growth, schools and firehouses and grocery stores and homes. And so we've got to sort of step on the gas there. And what we're doing is we're leveraging tried and true research on the legacy fleet to make sure it's there for as long as possible and it can operate as predictably as possible. These older units have got a lot of ability and are creating a lot of value for our customers every day. And where we thought we might be landing them in a retired status, maybe we're going to have to hold on to those a little longer. And at the same time, there are supply chain constraints on bringing those new items on board because a lot of people are going through this, not just Entergy, but across the country and certainly across the world. We're just about tapping out our global supply chain on new assets like combustion turbines. And so if you want to get to building the new plant, that's great, but you got to operate until it comes online. And load growth may be such that even when the new plant comes online, we'll need these legacy assets to operate seasonally, a portion of the year, or we may even need them whenever our new plants have to go into maintenance periods and outages. So EPRI helps us with all of that. And that, the research we've done on things like environmental controls and rotor life extensions for combustion turbines, even flow accelerated corrosion, that's all great for the legacy, and we're going to apply that to the new. But I'm really excited about the partnership we've got with them around the generation transition. It's trying to find meaningful answers that we can go apply, no matter what the company name is, to our situation and get us through this so that in 5 years, our customers will still continue to see tremendous value in their electricity that we provide them.
Well, Mike, Jake, I really appreciate you two taking the time. I know it goes like this, these episodes, but I want to give each of you an opportunity to leave any final thoughts with our listeners. So, Mike, I'll go ahead and start with you.
So I think the thought I want to leave is this is an exciting industry. And this is an industry that will be bringing the country and the world forward, and it is a great place to be. I know that there's a lot of young folks out there that look at the renewable technologies and they're jumping in there, but there's a lot more than just renewable technologies that are going to be required to do this successfully. And so I've had a wonderful, fantastic career, 25 years, started in a coal plant, didn't end in a coal plant. But there's a lot of opportunity in the industry and a lot of dynamism in it. And it's really a great place if you're got an engineering sort of slant to your interests. This is a great industry to have a long, successful, interesting career. So I just want to put it out there to the younger folks, because I think that's one of the things that we don't have full control over. We don't have enough young folks coming into this industry. Just point blank, we don't have enough young folks. The one thing I would say also is some of these legacy assets that we need to operate maybe a little bit longer. That might not be like the glamorous job, but it's a great job to learn a lot, right? You can get in there, you can do a lot, you can move up the chain very quickly. And it's going to be really important for us to continue to get young folks into power generation, to be able to continue to deliver on that compact with society of reliable, resilient electricity supply. So that's my message. I'll get off the soapbox and turn it over to Jake.
Well, don't worry, Mike. I am currently grooming my 5-year-old son to be an engineer. So you only got about 15 years until he can join.
Perfect.
Jake, what about you?
We're going to need him to be ready in 15 years because Mike and I aren't going to do this forever. There is a finite end of our era. But I would say, I want to echo what Mike said, but think more broadly behind engineering. If you are just a person who enjoys making a difference in a meaningful job that's connected to a purpose bigger than you among great people, that's what the electric utility industry is. We have outstanding professionals in every walk of our organizations, and the people that work to get the power lines to your house and manage the transmission grid, who monitor those systems on a 24/7 basis. We have tremendous women and men in our power plants that are out there caretaking that equipment and working together each and every minute of each and every day. It's an exciting industry, and it's been sort of masked as being stodgy or boring because we haven't had a lot of growth. But that is not the case anymore. This electric utility industry we're in now would be exciting to anyone in any walk of life, especially if you want to make a difference. And I would point you towards our job board. We've got openings left and right. We're out to get as many people involved in this as possible, because it's going to take a bunch of us working our hardest every day to deliver on that We Power Life commitment for today and for the future generations.
Excellent. Well, thank you to both of you for a wonderful conversation, and to our listeners for joining us today. And with that, I'm your host, Samantha Gilman, and we'll talk to you next time. If you liked today's show, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast, and feel free to share with your colleagues and friends. For more information about EPRI, please visit our website at www.epri.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and X at EPRI News. Together, we're shaping the future of energy.